Welcome to Pateo Television. My name is Johan Oldenkamp, and I am a professor of archaeology at PAWS, the Pateo Academia for Holy Science. In this 44th episode of Pateo TV, we're going to talk about the Orion Orientation. It is almost imperative, I would say, that you first watch episode 43 of Pateo Television, which was about the previous equator. So if you've not seen that video, then please stop watching the current video, put it on pause, and go to internet and find episode 43 first, and then watch it first, because otherwise you will not understand it. And another advice of me for you is to also watch episode 1 of Pateo Television. I recorded that in 2016 on February the 2nd, and actually it builds on a discovery that I did in 2011, so it's now 6 years ago, and I named that discovery the Clock of Giza. And the discovery is actually that the pyramids on the Giza plateau, together with the Great Sphinx, form a clock that shows a third dimension of our time. Here you can see the Great Pyramid here on the right hand side, upper side. This is the Great Pyramid. And here you see the ages: Iron Age, Bronze Age, Silver Age, and Golden Age. I'm not going to explain that here, but also this video builds on that discovery. So I think it's also important to first watch episode 1 of Pateo Television. You can find all those episodes very quickly on Pateo.nl or also on holyscience.org. Simply type in the Clock of Giza, and there you immediately find the videos. Anyway, and what I also said in the previous episode of Pateo TV, I think it's very important to also read this book, Chronicles of the Gods. It's an ebook of 60 pages, and if you buy that ebook for a small amount of money, then you also get a video, because they are together. And in the video, I show all the depictions, so it becomes even more clear. And the complete timeline of what happened in the past is explained in this booklet. So I'm not going to talk about the timing neither in this video, but I'm going to add something really important. Yeah, let me switch on my camera. In the previous episode, episode 43 of Pateo TV, I talked about where the previous North Pole position was. And I said near Valdez in Alaska, but that's not precise enough. The real correct point here, exactly in the previous northern position, the North Pole position, that is where we now find a small island called Krivoy, and it is in the Yucatan Bay. It's, of course, near Valdez, but this is more precise. Here you see another depiction from above. The black line here is the ancient equator. And here you can see the white dot there. That is the previous North Pole position. And there you find that small island. If you zoom in to the highest detail, then eventually you get to this island. Here you see Alaska, and here this is Canada, and here you see the city of Yucatan, and the island which I'm talking about now, Krivoy, is a little bit north of that. So here you see the depiction you can find on the internet. It's exactly the same spot here. This is another one. So if you want to be really precise, that's what I'm doing now, and that's where you have to be. So in the previous video, I said it was around here. Well, that's not close enough. It's actually around here. To be more precise, it is here, this small island called Krivoy. So now I've said that, now you know exactly where the previous North Pole position was. It's this small island. So if you go to the Yucatan Bay and you go here, this is where when the previous equator was the real equator, then this was exactly in the north. So if you would stand here, yeah, it seems like, for instance, no, I'm not going to explain that. Sorry, this is not going to add too much. It's not really about this. Yeah, and sorry for the disturbance. And so that means that every distance from this ancient equator to this North Pole position here at Kruger Island was exactly the same. So all the lengths were the same. And now we can also go to the meter, because the definition of the meter was done in the year 1793, and it was simply defined as the distance from the equator. So this is not the previous, this is the current equator. So the distance from the current equator to the North Pole position, and the current North Pole position. And that distance was then measured as 10,000 kilometers. So, and kilometer means 1,000 meter. So actually 10 million meters. And of course, the meter was not defined then. At least that's what we know now, but I'm not going to talk about that either. I'm just simply saying that in those days, the distance from the North Pole position to any point of the equator was divided into 10 million equal distances, and the unit of measurement of such a distance was then named a meter. But now this is already a little bit longer, yeah, because the distance now from the North Pole position to the equator is a little bit more than 2 kilometers extra. So that means that in those more than 200 years, our planet had expanded. Our planet is growing. Mainstream science, actually it's not a real science, university-based science tries to tell us that this is not true. Well, I have news for you. What the university professors are doing, are conducting, is not real science. University professors are priests of a religion named scientism. It's based on all kinds of dogmas, and those dogmas are blocking you to find the truth. The truth is that about 200 million years ago, our planet was much smaller than it is now. The diameter was about half of its current diameter. And in that very small planet, all the continents are attached together, as you can see in this animation. Yeah, they perfectly fit together. All the coastal lines fit perfectly together on a twice as much smaller planet. And it's growing and growing, and that's why about now 70% of our surface is covered with water, but that will only increase until eventually it may be even 80% or even 90%. But of course, that will be far in the future. This is a very important theory. University-based professors say it's nonsense. Well, I have news then for you. They are very wrong. And I challenge every one of them. I can even challenge all of them together in disproving this theory, because they are not real scientists. They are, as I said, priests of a religion. They want you to believe in their religion. Well, I do not. I most certainly do not believe in their fake science religion. So now let us move on to the main topic of this episode, which is about the constellation of Orion. You can see that here on the left-hand side. And this is my favorite star constellation, no doubt about this. And how can you recognize it? Well, the ancients depicted a man holding his right arm up and a shield, or sometimes a lion. But of course you can see a man in here, but you can also see like this. Simply see a kind of hourglass. So I refer to this constellation as the hourglass constellation of Orion. And there are 7 stars that are very important in this hourglass constellation. The one at the left-hand side top is called Betelgeuse, and it's a giant star. Look it up on the internet, see how big it is, but it's unbelievably big. Then we have Bellatrix, Saiph and Rigel. Those are the 4 outer corners of this constellation, yeah, if you see it as an hourglass. And the three in the middle, they are called the belts, the belt of Orion. Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. Those three stars are in the belt of Orion. And here you can see them, and they are not exactly on a straight line. Yeah, there is a kind of bending in the middle. Here you see enlargements, and you can see the line here is not a straight line. Yeah, or if you take this line. So they're not, these three stars are not on one line. They're not aligned perfectly. There's a little bit of bending here. And this is Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. Mintaka is the smallest light. Yeah, it's a little bit less big according to how we perceive it from our the surface of our home planet. So that's why it's mostly depicted as a little bit smaller. Alnitak is the biggest, but almost equally big as Alnilam, and Mintaka is clearly a little bit smaller. Again, seen from our perspective. And that is, of course, what is depicted at the Giza Plateau. The three big pyramids, the three biggest ones, they represent the three stars of the belt of Orion. And you can see that here depicted. Yeah, it's a perfect match. Yeah, some try to debate this. Well, you can do all the debating you want, but anyone who doesn't see the truth of this should stop watching the video right now. So what is called the Great Pyramid is actually a depiction of Alnitak, or you can also call this the Pyramid of Alnitak. This is the Pyramid of Alnilam, and this is the Pyramid of Mintaka. Yeah, the smallest one is Mintaka, and the biggest one is Alnitak. Alnilam is in the middle. And that is how they were built, yeah, to represent the stars of Orion, the three middle stars, the belts. Alnitak, the biggest one, Alnilam in the middle, and Mintaka is the smallest one. These are the correct names of these three pyramids. Anyone who calls them differently is very mistaken. And Orion was actually connected with the personification of Osiris. Osiris is nothing else than the representation of the constellation of Orion in the sky, in the southern sky, night sky. Yeah, here you see a depiction of that constellation. And that is why I put this at the front page of this video, because you can clearly see the belt of Orion. These are the three stars. Yeah, Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. And here you see Betelgeuse, Bellatrix, Saiph, and so on. So these are the 7 most important stars of this constellation, according to my interpretation, of course. Yeah, and 7 to me is a very important number too. So these 7 here are depicted, and there are some things very important about this constellation. Yeah, one of that is, most people don't know about this, but the line here from Bellatrix to Saiph goes exactly through Alnilam in the middle. And the direction is also very meaningful. We'll see that later on. So this is very important to remember, this diagonal line through the middle of the constellation. What most people know about Orion, yeah, if you're not seeing it here, it's right here. Here you can see the constellation of Orion. Yeah, I draw the lines again of the hourglass. What most people, of course, know, and I hope you do too, is how to find this beautiful star. Actually, it's not a single star, it's a double star, and in my opinion, it's actually a triple star, but that's not something I'm going to discuss either in this video. Watch my other videos for that. But there is a connection between this star, which we call Sirius, and the constellation of Orion, because if you make a line from the upper 2 stars in the belt of Orion, Mintaka and Alnilam, and you make that line longer and longer, and then eventually you end up with this beautiful star. Yeah, this is the most brightest light of a star in our night sky. Yeah, this is the brightest star. There are other lights too, like the moon, Luna is reflecting, and Venus is also reflecting sunlight, and they are more bright, of course. But this is a real star emitting her own light, Sirius. So that's the connection between Osiris and Isis, or Orion and Sirius. And now we go to the diagonal line, because now we can see the meaning. Yeah, again, this is from Bellatrix to Saiph, goes to Alnilam in the middle. This direction is meaningful because it corresponds to the direction of the Milky Way, our own galaxy. You can see all these stars here belong to our own galaxy, the Milky Way. And that is the direction of this, yeah, flat pancake rotating around. Yeah, and we are part of that gigantic structure. And the direction of that pancake, so to say, that flying saucer, if you want, that is exactly matching this line in Orion. Yeah, most people don't know about this, but this is also very important to know. So again, can you see Orion here? Hopefully you do. Yeah. This is Betelgeuse, the gigantic star. So this is Orion. And now we can find Sirius, of course, very easily. Yeah, it's here. So that's what we know now, but we can add something to it. Yeah, make the diagonal line, and then you know also the direction of our galaxy. Yeah, because they're always parallel, these two lines. This is important to remember. So I hope you remember this for the remaining of this video. In the previous video, we saw that our planet got tilted. Yeah, according to my research, this happened in the year, about 5,000 years ago. And that is why we now have the current geographic North Pole right here, and the current geographic South Pole at Antarctica right here. But in the old days, it was like this. Yeah, it was here at the island we saw in the beginning of this video. That was the North Pole position. And the South Pole was here. Yeah, I think it's just beyond the border of Antarctica. I think it's in the Atlantic Ocean right now. But yeah, that's up for you. You can also look it up for yourself. Anyway, this is the old rotating axis, and this is the current one. And yeah, we nowadays make most maps oriented to the north, but that is a little bit strange, and especially if the most important thing in the night sky is in the south. And of course, I'm talking about the constellation of Orion. You can see it in the south side of the hemisphere of the night sky. So that's why the orientation of the ancient people who lived here, I call this land Kemet, the Black Land. The ancient Kemetians were oriented to the south, not to the north as we are nowadays. So that's why we have to flip this map. Yeah, and what I let me put it back here, what I forgot to show. The direction, sorry, that's first because the arrow came in, but I didn't explain it. Here you see Giza. Yeah, so the Great Pyramid and the other two are here. The pyramids of Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka, they are here. And the direction of the Nile River is going straight up in this depiction. Yeah, so now we can see it's going straight to the north, but it is the current north. So that is very important. The direction of the Nile here is straight south-north in our current tilted position of our home planet. As I said, the ancient Kemetians were oriented to the south. So that's why this part here with the delta is actually Lower Egypt. And the one more to the south is Upper Egypt. And that makes sense now. Yeah, we have to flip the map. Upper is above and lower is below. So this is the below part. If you have the old map facing north, then it's very confusing But if you have the map correctly positioned like this, so the south is top and the north is down, then it makes a lot of sense. And then it's very easy. You will never be confused again. Upper Egypt is in the north, meaning in the south, because the maps were facing south in those days. South is up, north is down. And actually it was twisted a little bit, or turned a little bit, or tilted if you like, because our home planet was tilted. And from that part of the surface of our home planet, it was this amount of inclination. So now you can see that the Nile River was no longer flowing from south to north near Giza. Yeah? It was not directly north-south, because this was the direct line between south and north. Hope you can still follow me, because it's all very important. So this is the correct map in those days, meaning the correct orientation to the south. Upper Egypt being here, and Lower Egypt being here. Yeah, if you can read upside down, you can see the words. But yeah, we should actually make a map like this, also in this direction. That is the correct one when the Great Pyramid and the others were built. The pyramid of Alnitak and Alnilam and Mintaka. And now we go back to the constellation of Orion. Hopefully by now you can easily spot it. Yeah, there is the constellation of Orion. And now you can also see where Sirius is. Yeah, please point it out. Indeed, there is the star that corresponds to the Sirius. Actually, it's Sirius A, because Sirius B we cannot see with the naked eye. And Sirius C is, according to mainstream scientism, not yet discovered. Well, the Dogon people knew all about this, so I think one day that will be also discovered. Anyway, that's not part of this video. The relation between Mintaka and Alnilam, yeah, the straight line going to Sirius, that is there, because we know now that these three stars were represented on our home planet, the surface of our home planet, as three very impressive pyramids. So the three pyramids were built, and they were built here at Giza. Hope you can read upside down. And the line, straight line from Giza to a representation of Sirius is also there, and it's the very same line. Because yeah, most people go to Giza to see the pyramids, but I've done that myself too, but I forgot to go to the obelisk of Heliopolis, because this is equally important in my opinion. If you visit the Great Pyramids, then you should also take a tour to this obelisk, because this obelisk represents Sirius, the star Sirius, while the three pyramids represent the three stars of the constellation of Orion in the middle, the belt of Orion. And the line that we can see in the sky, the direction is exactly the same as the line that was built on our home planet. So it's 100% perfect match. And in the ancient days, this was known. Here you see all kinds of ancient paintings of the obelisk of Heliopolis representing the star Sirius. And here you can see this obelisk, and in the back you can see the three pyramids. So they are connected, but nowadays, yeah, the city of Cairo is built around it, so it's not possible to see it, maybe from a helicopter, but not from the ground, because there's too much in between. But there is a direct line, and the direct line is exactly the same direction. Here you see the three pyramids. Yeah, again, this is oriented to the north, because this map is also oriented to the north. And if you take the corners, the southeast corners of these three pyramids, they are connected in one line. That's how they solved this puzzle. So they made the pyramids in such a shape that the three corners on the southeast side are on one line. And if you extend that line for about 22 kilometers or 13 miles, then you end up exactly at the obelisk of Heliopolis, again representing Sirius. So this is Sirius and this is Orion, or this is Osiris and this is Isis. Yeah, so these pyramids are aligned, but not through the middle, not through their hearts, because that would be wrong. That's not true for the constellation of Orion either. But the builders of the pyramids solved this by taking the southeast corner. That means the current southeast corner. So what we first need to do is turn the map upside down, facing south. That's what we do now. And then we have to twist it a little bit to get the correct southern orientation in those days. And that is this orientation. And now we can draw the line touching the corners. And that line is going straight to the obelisk of Heliopolis. Yeah, again, you see here the three pyramids and the line going in the direction of Heliopolis, exactly as this line is from Mintaka and Alnilam going straight to Sirius. Yeah, and you can see these two lines are parallel. And there's another map, and you can even see on this map to Heliopolis, because yeah, to some people this is known. Mainstream doesn't know anything about it, and I bet most university professors have never heard of this, but some people know this, and it's very important. Yeah, the three pyramids on Giza, they are directly connected with the obelisk of Heliopolis. So this is the correct orientation to the south, and when the previous equator was the middle line. And now we can come back to the Clock of Giza, yeah, the discovery that I made in 2011, and then later on I fine-tuned it a little bit. Yeah, I had to correct some errors, but yeah, the main thing is still there, because the pyramids represent the pyramids represent the stars of Belt of Orion. Sorry, I made a mistake, but I put them already in the current position. That was wrong. Anyway, yeah, this is when I started this. I put it a little bit different, but if you draw it in a correct orientation, like I'm doing now, sorry that the animation is not going right here, but this is the correct orientation, meaning that you see the blue line here is exactly the same orientation as this blue line. So they're parallel. And that means that the pyramids are exactly in the same position. Yeah, maybe this is going too fast, but yeah, then please first watch the video on the Clock of Giza. Then you'll understand also the meaning of the smaller pyramids, because everything is meaningful. And now when it is turned in the right position, yeah, these pyramids match exactly the position here, then you can see that the Bronze Age and the Iron Ages, the Iron Age and the Bronze Ages are on the left-hand side, and the Silver Ages and the Golden Age are exactly on the right-hand side. So this is the perfect alignment, and that's also the alignment and also the orientation when the pyramids were created. Most people nowadays assume that the pyramids were created facing north, yeah, or north-south, or a perfect north-south, east-west orientation. That is very wrong, because this is how the pyramids were created, in this orientation, and it had nothing to do with the orientation of north, east, south, and west. Nothing. It had everything to do with the direction to Osiris, to Sirius, and also to the correct positioning of the constellation of Orion. Because Orion has to be with both knees or legs, or if you like it, this has to be in horizontal line. And then you get this orientation for the three pyramids. Yeah, what we see here, this orientation of the three pyramids in the Orion's belt, they are only occurring when the constellation of Orion is like this, with the bottom two at with a horizontal line connecting them. And then you get this constellation, and here. And this one, yeah, where the position of Mintaka is, that is exactly where the pyramids were created. So they used the smaller one this for positioning the pyramids. Yeah, so they didn't put the pyramids on these spots. No, they put them all together here. Otherwise, you need a very, it would not be understandable. Yeah, then you should also make two pyramids in the Mediterranean, and that's of course not true. So what they simply did is they put the image of the constellation of Orion on this, yeah, delta region, and then you see that this line perfectly fits the water coming from the Red Sea. And also here, the Nile is more or less following this line too. And then you see the delta and the almost as perfect lines. So that's why they used this. They saw the image of the god, yeah, Osiris as the god in heaven. They saw his image on the surface. And that's why they built the pyramids right here. And also this line, yeah, the line that is parallel to the to our galaxy, the Milky Way, is also there because that's this line. So that was enough for our ancestors long time ago to use these this plot to create the pyramids. And now we can see that this direction, yeah, which is the current north-south orientation, but it had nothing to do with north and south in these days. Yeah, this direction is indeed the direction in which, yeah, the north-south, current north-south orientation of the pyramids are. Yeah, and also the Sphinx is lying perpendicular to this line. But that, yeah, you can call it, I don't like the word too much, but you can call it coincidence. Yeah, it was not intentionally created then. The intention was to mimic the constellation of Orion and to create a connection with Sirius. That was the intention. And that is why the current orientation of the pyramids is like these. But again, it has nothing to do with a perfect north-south alignment. Or east-west. There's a lot of debate about this, but you can forget all about it because when the pyramids were built, the north-south direction was different. So what did I do in this video? I hope you can agree with me. I nailed it. Yeah, I nailed all kinds of very wrong assumptions by scientism. And that is why I think it's time to break free from all those silly dogmas. Oh, let me switch on the camera first. Sorry. Yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this video, but as I said before, university-based, yeah, religion, because that's what it is, scientism. It's not real science. It's time that we break free from all those silly dogmas and open our minds to a much more realistic way of understanding our history. Because the history that we find described in the books, yeah, the textbooks from the universities, is very, very wrong. If you want to know the truth about history, then study holy science. For now, I thank you very much for watching this video. And as always, if you've liked it, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel, because then you get updates every time I upload a video like this. And if you want, you can connect with me via social media. And yeah, if you want, I think it's a good idea to visit Pateo.nl as often as you can, or you can also go to holyscience.org. For now, thank you very much again for watching this video. Namaste.